Hey, welcome. My name is George Donnelly, and I am the founder of the Restored Kingdom. And I wanted to come to you today. This is like the introduction, number one, first video of this YouTube channel slash podcast slash whatever it decides to be. I've just been told by so many people that I need to start this channel because, well, there's a lot, right? And if you followed me before on social media, Instagram, TikTok, or on Facebook, you'll have an idea of what this channel is going to be about, and that is restoring the kingdom within, right? So, what does that mean, and why am I doing this? Here's a little bit of my story. I'll give you the spiritual background and how I ended up where I am into Christianity and reforming Christianity as we see it today to be more as Yeshua, the Christ, intended it to be. And so, with that, my story goes back to when I was 18 years old. I joined the army. I grew up with no real religion, no belief in God. There was a belief in kind of a higher power, but nothing much more than that. We were Native American, and my dad was very proud of that as well. We're Blackfoot and Algonquin. And then there's also some lineage to like Rebecca Norris of the Salem witchcraft trials, where she was hanged and tried as a witch. We're a direct descendant of her through, he went through ancestry or did all that crazy cool stuff. But that led my dad down a path of bringing Native American spirituality into us, into our house, bringing Wiccan or pagan spirituality, and not in a bad way. It wasn't like casting spells. My dad was really sick, and he was looking for herbs. I guess he was searching himself in a way, and so that was introduced into my house, and I was reading these things, and I really never knew what I was doing. But when I was 18, I ended up in the army. Always knew I wanted to end up in the military in some way and serve our country. I love guns. I loved fighting. I did martial arts most of my life growing up, on and off, and even up until recently. But now we're shifting gears where I went through pretty much my whole life with no real belief system, no God or structure in that sense. Then I go into the military, and during basic training and your advanced individual training, where I went to the police academy, I became a military police officer and served 2 years in the National Guard in Rhode Island. But Sundays you had nothing to do. So you got your idea. They let you go to whatever religious belief that you had. So if you wanted to go to a Christian denomination of church, they had many. They had Catholicism, they had Baptist, they had different forms of Protestantism, and they also did have Wiccan. They have Buddhism, and they had Judaism as well. So there was a little bit of everything there available, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be stuck in the barracks with the cadre and just being a target, and nor do I want to clean my boots anymore and sort my locker. So I needed to get out, and without realizing, I was actually seeking. And so I went and I tried Catholicism with a buddy of mine, an Italian brother from Rhode Island, and I went with him, and I enjoyed it. Didn't really resonate with me. I went to a Southern Baptist church, and while I loved all the praise, the Lords and hallelujahs, and the dancing, and the women all like this and fainting, it was a very cool experience. And my buddy's up there playing bass for the congregation. So while that was beautiful, again, didn't resonate. Well, long story short, on that end of it, I ended up going and trying out Buddhism. I walk in, it was a multi-purpose church. I literally watched them take the cross down and then put a gong up in front and then some incense. And that was pretty much it. And that was a switch from the Christian church to the Buddhist temple, all in the same place. And I sit down and they start chanting. and they're chanting Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo, and they did this, and it was just for what seemed to be forever. It lasted pretty much the entire time that I was there. I had no idea what they were chanting. The gong would go off every once in a while, and then there would be. It just brought me such peace. It brought such peace. So as I'm not chanting this, I don't know the words at this point. I'm just hearing it, and the vibration from everybody. There must have been 20 or 30 people praying or chanting this mantra, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And from there, I just fell asleep. My goodness, it was just, you had been through so much at that point. I was exhausted. I hadn't found much peace. We're always on the ready. My nervous system is shot and dysregulated, and I've tried all these other things, but for whatever reason, this chant felt so peaceful within me that I ended up falling asleep. It had such an effect on me that I decided that I was going to go and further this. So I ended up reading on Buddhism a little bit, understanding a little bit of the history of Buddhism, and then diving deeper into the mantra, where it was just going from just listening it to saying it, but not just saying it, but saying it frequently, consistently. So now this mantra is just carrying this energy within me, and I had no idea. In fact, even though I was studying it, didn't even understand the true meaning of the words. I looked it up at the time, and this is back in 2007, 2008, so the internet access on base wasn't as great. Google wasn't really accessible to me, so I was getting these brief descriptions of what I was saying, and none of it made sense. It just felt good, so I just kept doing it. Lo and behold, years later, when I'm really studying, I'm really studying Buddhism. I'm chanting this still, and this is years later, even after I'm out and I got out on a medical discharge, honorable discharge with a medical separation, and I continued to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Well, just for an idea, and I've posted this before on social media, but in essence, you're calling in to embody the divine law, to overcome your own suffering, my own suffering there, and so I can then help serve others and help them overcome their suffering. And in another description is calling on the Buddha nature. And now the Buddha nature is compassion, it's love, and it's all encompassing. And so I was calling on this Buddha nature within me, which, by the way, is the Christ nature, right? It's the Christ energy within us. It's the same thing with the Krishna nature. It's the embodiment of unconditional love and abiding in God's laws, the divine laws, the truth and laws that are not changing, the law of one. Right? The law of one, the law of attraction, the law of all of these laws that we are playing with here in this universe. When you become aware of them, you get to then play with these energies a little bit. So anyway, I was calling in the Buddha nature for years before understanding what I was doing. And now, today, that brought me into Christianity. And there's a whole story just on how I came into Christianity. Again, I came from a non-Christian household, almost anti-Christian, not completely, but definitely judgment on the Christian faith based off of our own experiences within it, mine as well, not just my parents. My parents did influence me, but I was seeing it from outside sources. So I was seeing a negative side to Christianity, never having been given the opportunity to see the positive. And so my experience only with Christianity was negative at that point, including like abortion, even going to churches with different people and family members, and just feeling just not right, not at ease at all with the whole situation. And now I understand why. But around 2020, COVID hits, and then all of a sudden things start to wake up for me. I'm not falling for any of this shit that's going on out in the world, and my awakening began to really accelerate. It had already been accelerating, but it was really accelerating. I ended up with an autoimmune condition that was so debilitating that I could barely walk. I had wheelchairs, and I was looking at wheelchairs online. I was already using a cane here and there. I went from, I'm 6 foot tall. I went down to 125 pounds. I looked like a skeleton. People were asking literally if I was dying, and it felt like I was. The amount of pain that I was in, and I decided that I was gonna go on. I was gonna just take my life at that point, because here I am. I've got 4 children at that time, mind you. This is the thought process. This is how painful this was. This is how useless and how much of a failure I felt at this time. I was low enough to have even those dark thoughts of my family would be better off because I'm absolutely useless. I can't do anything here. I can't serve. I can't do anything. Well, my wife came home one day, and she said she was pregnant. So I had to really reevaluate what the universe at that time was telling me, and it was clear. It was obvious. I mean, it was obvious that the universe was telling me that I'm not done here yet. I have more children to raise, and I've got to become the best version of myself for these kids and for myself, and to stop all of this holds ends with us type deal, in the mindset, the scarcity, the suffering within my family lineage. It stops with me and it stops with my kids. I understood this, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what the heck to do. My mind was a mess. I was emotionally distraught. I was suffering, almost needlessly at this point in my life. And I came across Aubrey Marcus podcast, and I'd already been following him for years and read his book and things like that. But he's really into psychedelics. He calls himself a psychonaut, and I got a lot of information from that on mushrooms and ayahuasca, DMT, all of these different psychedelics and plant medicines. And I decided that I'm like, I know these things aren't going to cure me, but I need to see if it'll give me some answers. And so I found a good source for some psilocybin mushrooms, and I ended up doing a pretty heavy dose, about 7 grams, 7.5 grams worth. I had no idea that was that was a pretty good sized dose at the time. But nonetheless, I went in with the intention, made it like a ceremony, the setting, the intention, all of that. My kids were off. My wife was here sober and just here for me, supporting me through it. I mean, she may have even microdosed or had a little bit herself, but for the most part, I was gone. I was absolutely gone. And my intention was to ask, what is causing this condition? What is causing this autoimmune condition? And it was an unknown autoimmune condition. I had already been through 5 doctors. I had spent basically a weekend out in Miami being poked and prodded and no answers. So they just chalked it up that I was just going to be in pain and, slowly deteriorating for the rest of my life. So I said, peace, there's got to be another answer. And the other answer was mushrooms. And the answer that the mushrooms gave to me was profound. It was the fact that all of a sudden I'm sitting with it, and things are shifting. The reality is moving. I'm seeing my energy. I'm seeing colors. I'm seeing my energy infused with everything that I touch. I'm understanding that I am interconnected and one with all things at this point. And then I remember the question I had, the intention that I had, and that is, what is causing this autoimmune condition within me? And this profound answer comes, and it says, you are. You cause this. You cause this. And with that, it almost shifted me automatically. It was like it hit me so hard. I couldn't accept it as anything other than truth. And I knew in that moment there was a radical acceptance and honesty. I was able to see every decision I had ever made in my life up until that point that I could remember. So from whatever age, like 8, 9-ish, all the way up until my early 30s. I was witnessing all of these different decisions that I made and all of the emotions that I suppressed, all the trauma that I held on to and I hadn't released yet. I was causing this because I was refusing to accept responsibility for my life. And the moment that I was able to accept responsibility for my life was the moment that everything shifted. Now, the mushrooms didn't cure me, but it allowed me to see the truth of where this pain was coming from. And upon recognizing that and accepting the truth, the next morning, other than the headache that I had, because I had no idea that I needed to hydrate way more than I did. So other than the headache, I woke up about 50% better. The inflammation in my knees were lower, the inflammation in my feet, the pain in my jaw. I had locked jaw, I couldn't eat. That's why I was so thin. Right? It was clenching. It was clenching and grinding. And I've still got cracked teeth because of this. I've got all kinds of issues because of it, but I've been able to resolve it. And now, because I took that first step of accepting the fact that everything that in my life is my responsibility, it's my choice, it's my fault. Everything is my responsibility in my own life. Every choice, every action, every behavior, everything. I can no longer, at this point, I can no longer blame the outside world or anything around me because I just couldn't. I just couldn't. I saw the truth. I saw it was all coming from me. And then I continued to go dive further and further into the self, growth work. And I was studying psychology and Carl Jung and psychoanalytics. I just, it was like, what else is there? And books started popping into my life. I became more open. It's almost as if the plant medicine opened me up and allowed the healing to start flowing through. And little by little, the autoimmune condition just went away. It's gone. I don't have any inflammation. I don't have any disease. I don't have any issues as far as my health. Yeah, I'm sore here and there because I work out and I beat my body up. I play basketball with my kids. But overall, my health is really good. Now, there's always room for improvement. This whole year is about improving even further, integrating everything, becoming a whole person, or realizing that I am a whole person. But my journey then into Christianity shocked me because I ended up moving. I was living in Rhode Island before that, and before 2017, and then in 2017 we moved down to Florida, and I'm in a town called Ave Maria, Florida. Still here, still kicking, and it's a Catholic town. There's literally a church built in the middle of this place, and here I am, non-Catholic. I've got Thor, Odin, and a phoenix on my back. I've got all kinds of, I've got tattoos on my head. I am covered head to toe in tattoos, and I can tell you, moving here, it was a shock. And I was having basically God, just that theology and that environment just pushing down on every level. And I was working for a physical therapy place, so a lot of these people were coming right from church. Literally, it was across the street, and they would come right in for physical therapy, and we'd be talking about God and Mary and Joseph and the saints and the Pope and the Catholic faith. And I was just constantly being triggered by it because it was just so unsettling for me. A lot of the terminology, and I could feel the fear from it. So I resisted and resisted and resisted and resisted. And so there was just, I think, a breaking point where I couldn't resist any further. And that resistance, I had a dream one night where Mary came to me in this dream. And I will post about this dream in particular because it's such a beautiful symbolic dream that represents Mary always being with me, and me being the Christ, and me being always there, and being able to allow me to birth the Christ into this world. But she said to me that I've always had you, my child, and handed my infant self to me. And I was able to see that I needed to open my mind up to this whole Christian idea. And the moment I did that, I asked us, like, Lord, the only thing that I want right now, and whatever direction that you're bringing me, is inner peace. Like, I have such anger, resentment, jealous. I have all this within me. I'm just so tired of holding all this on to me. Please, Lord, take this away. How can I alleviate this? I just want inner peace. Well, it didn't take very long for all of a sudden, the Course in Miracles, which is, by the way, put out by the Foundation of Inner Peace. The entire book is about maintaining inner peace, correcting the error of the mind and the ego, and all of those things that I had been studying with Carl Jung, and the psychoanalytics and archetypes and things like that. So it was just a beautiful, kind of divine intervention that happened, that synchronicity. And then I got messages from St. Joseph, and messages from Mary Magdalene. I got messages from St. Francis of Assisi. It seemed like all of these, the Christian symbols, the archetypes, the Christian archetypes, and the Christian energies and entities and people they were just flooding me at this point. Like, whoa. And I was just being doused. And as a good friend of mine said, that it was, she experienced through her own education, it was like receiving Jesus through fire hose, not just a water hose, but a fire hose. And while she got it through academia, I was getting it through downloads and experience. And mind you, none of these experiences were actually psychedelic and based. It was not. I wasn't taking at that point high doses of cannabis. I wasn't taking mushrooms consistently or DMT. Any of these things. These all happened over time. And a lot of these things happen just spontaneous through dreams or through deep meditation practice, through breath work. I get a lot of these downloads. A number of these downloads came from when I was sick, or I had COVID, I had high fevers, I had walking pneumonia plus COVID, a couple months back, that I ended up having several conversations with the Holy Family, all three people of the Holy Family. There was Yeshua, there was Joseph, and Mary, all there, and teaching me meditations. The blue flame meditation, the green flame meditation, and what these symbolize, and how to open your heart, how to protect all these crazy things are being taught to me through the Holy Family. Which she showed me their ascended masters and deep initiates in the mysteries of the universe, and they themselves are the universe, but so are we. We all are. We are all made of everything in the universe, stardust. And so my journey into Christianity, into Christian mysticism, led me to like things like Teresa of Avila, and I kept reading, I was listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts. I even went and I became Catholic. I went through RCIA, which is the rites of initiation for adults, and I learned, I went through the sacraments, and I was able to receive the sacraments, and I believe the sacraments are beautiful. Although I don't practice Catholicism in the way that it's traditionally practiced, I do hold a deep appreciation for the faith in itself and the sacraments, and when done correctly, the sacraments are beautiful, because sacraments are an embodiment of our faith. Right? When we receive a sacrament, it's not just a Eucharist, it's not just a blessing or an anointing. It is an initiation and an embodiment into a Christ-like life. And that's the idea, is that when we're doing these things based on our values, based on our beliefs, and communion with Source, with God. And so, and as Father Sean O'Leary says, that there are signs, symbols, and sacraments, and signs point to things in the physical. So like a stop sign or a yield sign points to you doing something in the physical, stop. But a symbol, and he makes this like giving a kiss to, a loved one, is is a sign, yes, but it is also a symbol. There's a deeper meaning behind just the kiss on the cheek or whatever. It's saying, I love you, right? And Louis Armstrong, I see friends shaking hands saying, how do you do? But they're really saying, I love you. And that's what it is. It's a symbol. And now when you take that symbol and and then you create a sacrament, and the sacrament becomes the embodiment of both the sign and the symbol. And it's beautiful. So when you're receiving the sacrament of communion, you're receiving a deeper symbolic thing, right? You're receiving Christ. And really what you're doing is you're just reminding yourself that the Christ is within you, and you're awakening that which is already within you. But you're taking an outside symbol or sacrament that shows the embodiment of who you're trying to be or imitate. And it's a beautiful practice. So again, I love the Catholic faith. I love that it brought me to where I am. But I did pull away from traditional, I would say lowercase c Catholicism, and it became more of an uppercase C Catholicism, meaning universal, that meaning all cosmologies of Christianity or in general are welcome, right? And they are not judged. That is the form of Catholicism that I follow, is a universal Catholicism, and even more so, I would call it, as Carolyn Myss calls it, Dr. Carolyn Myss, she says, I am a cosmic Catholic. I'm a cosmic universal. I'm a universal teacher. I'm a teacher of all faiths and all religions, because there's truth in all of it. And when you can find the truth shall set you free. And I'm going to tell you, there's freedom in the truth and the words that I will be going through here on this channel. And there's just so much to talk about. We're forming a new priesthood. That's what this is, and it's going to be more bringing people together in unity. Okay, and yes, we have unity churches out there, and they're doing wonderful things, and there's other churches doing great things, and they're needed where they are. But there's a different form. We're going to get rid of religion altogether, and you develop your own individual cosmology based on your beliefs and your experiences, and those are ever changing. When you're on this path, you have to be willing to trade out ideas, ideologies, theologies, theories, and just settle into truth. Right, so there's a lot of discernment and a lot of fishing through all the BS that's out there. Right, but what do you believe? What holds true for you? What are your core values? So we're going to be going through that. We're going to go into how to develop your own cosmology. We'll go into what my cosmology is, and so you get an example on how to do this. So I wish everybody listening to this the absolute best. I love you all. Peace be with you, and blessed be in the name of the Father, the Mother, the Son, and the Spirit. Namaste, and peace be with you.